Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the jungle. I'm your host, Hamilton Winters, strategist with Liger Partners. So excited to be joined by my friend, Bruce Pulver this morning. Bruce, how you doing?
I'm great. Good morning, Hamilton. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. It's a little early here, so
Good.
I'm actually in Louisiana. It's Central Time, so it's just now 7 a.m. And used to doing these at 8. 7's a whole new ball game.
Welcome to the new world, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Bruce, I know you, and I want others to know you. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how we became acquainted and how this whole thing has really came to be.
Sure. Well, thank you, Hamilton, and thank you for having me on this morning. So, I am a husband and a father of two daughters. I live in Atlanta, and I am a healthcare services professional. Been in that industry for my entire career, and recently, a few years ago, through a job change and through some corporate realignments, I ended up starting a journal, and that journal became a book. And then the book has led to talks, to speaking engagements and workshops, led to a TEDx talk that I did last year. And I was in studio doing a podcast when you and I met and got on the phone. And I think I was driving from Atlanta to South Carolina, and it almost consumed my entire drive. We had so much in common, and we had, a lot of things to share. We were going to do this in studio, and now that we're in a different situation, I kind of call this in studio now. It's just a different kind of studio. So That's how we met. A little bit about me, and I'm so honored and pleased to be able to join the conversation today.
Absolutely. And I've probably done 20 or 25 of these, and with various guests that I've known for years and guests that I meet in the studio. And although we haven't met in person, I feel like I've known you, and I've been excited for this for quite some time, especially after you sent me a copy of your book and I read through it, because it's really incredible. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. What I wanted to kind of go back to is your experience. And I know you've had a established business career. Tell us a little bit about your business career, 30,000 feet, and kind of how that led you into what you're doing now.
Yeah. So just quickly, coming out of school, the industries that drew me were healthcare, technology, and with the population segment, the baby boomers that when I came out of school, the target was that's going to be an aging, and I'm in this aging demographic that. Bearing those industries together was going to be something that have a long-term career opportunity. And so I launched into that immediately and did a lot of different things in technology and services. And then around 2007, the company I was with had a major reorganization and eliminated 500 positions. And one of those was mine. That was fine. I, rolled out and landed something else within 30 or 45 days. And that lasted for about 5 years. And then the same thing happened again. And, when that happened, I thought, wow, the only thing that was the same in, an economic change and a job change for me personally between those two situations, the only thing that was the same was me. So I really started questioning. I really started, thinking about, my skills and my talents, and started doubting a lot of that, which, it could be a common situation right now for folks in furloughs and reduced hours, et cetera. So anyway, what ended up happening virtually the day after that second layoff was I woke up and pounding in my head was a word. And I just wrote that word down because I didn't know why. It just kept pounding and pounding. And I wrote it vertically. And I looked at it for a matter of a minute, and I wrote a word for each letter in that one word, and it just blossomed the meaning of the word, and it gave me energy. It gave me a little bit of positivity, and it gave me a mindset that started me on the track of being positive. And that word was strong. And so I wrote strong vertically, and immediately I wrote the S was stand, the T was tall, R was remain, O was optimistic, N was now, and G was go for it. So for me, to be strong meant I needed to stand tall, remain optimistic, and now go for it. That was quite surprising to me. I didn't know why, but I tried to find something that day to be strong about. That process, then the next day was another word, the next day was another word, the next day was another word. And I just kept writing them down. And immediately that sort of gift was given me to see the meaning of a word just through its letters. That became texting to friends, sharing out to my community of my social network community, and strong encouragement and draw to turn it into a book, because it motivated me and inspired me. And then the feedback I got was friends were saying, wow, I really needed that word today. Or I was going through something, and when your word landed in my text, it helped me sort of get focused. So I'll stop there, because that all happened in a pretty quick period of time. The book was out in about a year after I wrote, and I wrote for 420 straight days.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, just getting that word is on the cover. Strong.
That's right.
And,
that's the first word we wrote.
Man, that's powerful. Step us through the emotions between getting that word and figuring out that there's this new concept, this write it vertically and let it define itself. And then having this, it had to have felt like this urge, right? This urge to do something with it. You've come across buried treasure, and now it's time to share. What are the emotions associated with that?
Wow, well, powerful. Not knowing, knowing where it came from my faith. I mean, I knew that I was being guided in something that was bigger than me. But I'll step back for a second, because there's a bit of backstory and history that might help, understand this a little bit, or me explain it a little bit.
Yeah.
During my mother's labor with me many, many years ago, she had a medical trauma that no woman had ever survived for longer than 72 hours. So when she went into labor with me, medically, what occurred was what's called a dissecting aortic aneurysm. That's where the aortic valve, the arteries, which have 3 layers, blew open. So she was bleeding between her initial layer of the artery and the other 2. And in all cases, the mother passes away during that trauma prior to me being born. She then entered a fight for the next 60 days for her life, undergoing not just a C-section with me, but 3 experimental and highly risky surgeries. And she just didn't quit. So she made a full recovery and lived every day as a positive, grateful person that was just thankful for every day. Now, so why does that matter? I was raised in that environment, and I realized as I went through this process that not everybody in the world is. I was very fortunate, to survive, to have my mother survive, and then for me to be raised by her perspective as one of my 2 parents, being very, very grateful and positive about just situations in life. Even when there was a stumble or a tumble, there was always an attitude of, it'll make us stronger, or use a stumbling block as a stepping stone. My father, who was the silent patient in this whole ordeal, was also a man who loved words. And, he would do crossword puzzles. He would write plays. It was just a hobby and a passion of his. So you asked me about the emotion. When I realized that me being given these words and having them come in as a positive, mindset and with a structure to do it, it absolutely forged a lot of things for me all the way back to my birth. This is sort of like, Mark Twain talks about the 2 most important days in your life. The first is the day you're born. And he goes on to say the second is the day you find out why. So this process really became my why, almost because of the circumstances.
Yeah.
And I hope that makes sense. I know I went back a little bit.
No, it does. It absolutely does. And it's powerful too. I mean, you've got a sign above your head that says, why me? I don't know if you noticed that, but
actually I do. It's actually between the why and the me are 2 pieces of rope tied together. So it's actually, why not me? Why not me? Yeah. So it's something I look at regularly, because, if you're going through some situations, I could always say why me, but how about saying why not me?
Why not me?
And that puts my mindset in a different place. Yeah, I keep that there.
I love it. I love it. What a powerful story that that your book and this art form that either you found or that found you, more likely, was the perfect molding between your mom's courage and tenacity and your dad's love for words and his talents and abilities and skills. I know when we talked on the phone earlier that you use this with your daughter as a motivating technique. You would text her words when she was going through, was it college or high school?
Yeah. So now, of course, both daughters are home now. We've got a daughter that's in graduate school and a daughter that's in her, just finishing her freshman year. She's a student at University of Georgia, and she worked really hard and earned the opportunity to be a member of the University of Georgia women's soccer team. And so if you think about that, you're 10, 11, 12, 13, as you're going through your teens, you're playing high levels of soccer, you're competing and you're striving to get better, and you're playing against your age groups as you move up the scenario of the process. Yep. Well, but when you arrive at college, you are now with players and opponents that are up to 4 years older than you are, who are already in the position that you were a superstar at, along with your other freshmen that come into the class, right? You are now back to square one. And we chatted, and she knows about the book, and of course, she's a big part of it. They both are. And we were talking as we were driving up to take her to school this past summer, and she said, it's going to be pretty tough. Would you write a word for me every morning and just send it to me via text as we're on our way to our 6:45 a.m. lifting workouts and training? So for the first month, this was June through July, I'd wake up and I'd send her a word. And so I think the first one I sent was breathe. Another word was stretch. And again, just writing it the same way and trying to make it personalized for her. Yeah. So yeah, I think it helped. I mean, we talked, and then we would talk about it. What did you do today to stretch? Were you able to step back and breathe today because of the pressure and the, all the things she wanted to be, she wanted to be a contributing member of the team early. And, there are obstacles to that when you've got, players who have 2 to 3 years of SEC, Division I competitive experience, and you're coming in as a new player.
No, that makes total sense. With that being said, it's very devotional, right? When you post things on LinkedIn, they pop up and I'll see the word and I'll remember it from reading through your book. I have a couple of favorites I highlighted in here, but I mean,
I'd love to hear them.
Even some of, let's see, I loved the months.
Oh yeah.
Especially now, because a month feels like a year. Let me see if I can find this one right here. Attitude. Attack tough times intensely, tenaciously using determination to excel. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, thank you. It's quite humbling, Hamilton, when others read the words in the book. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It started out as a journal, and I just tried to follow the calling of just continue to do things with this. And so when someone says they found a favorite word and they share it with me, it means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, having you write those down, there are so many good ideas, right, that come to people that are not written down and not shared with others, right? And it's not always the originator of the art form that gets the credit. It's the person that shared it, right?
Yeah.
It's the Nikola Tesla versus the Alexander, or versus the Thomas Edison, or Alexander Graham Bell versus the person that actually invented the telephone. It's who shared that technology with the world. And you did both, which is really, really special. We all got to benefit from that. So thank you on behalf of everybody that's gotten a copy of the book. Isaac, he also has a copy of the book, which is great. I've seen it on his desk in the office before. So I don't know if that was a Great Moore thing or what have you, but it ended up at the Liger headquarters somehow. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your TED Talk, because that's the first thing that I saw of yours. You sent that link over and said, hey, check out my TED Talk. And tell us a little bit about that experience, because, excuse me, I know you're a speaker and an author. That had to be a really neat experience.
Oh, life-changing. And well, I've been very fortunate in my career to learn from a lot of great people about presentations and, all the things you think about and prepare for when you're presenting to someone. You're trying to learn as much as you can about them, right? Their business, their needs, trying to develop a value proposition, a return on investment, that sort of thing. That's kind of what my background was. But the difference then is, okay, now you get 15 minutes, really no slides. I mean, I was able to put a few in because my concept and everything is so visual. A 5-camera dark room with an audience was just sort of, if you think of the difference between a regular sort of presentation and the venue that you're in, standing in the red circle. The preparation. Now I'll go back to the beginning part about it, but once you find out doing the preparation was so unique. I listened to at least 100 TED Talks prior to doing mine, and you wrote it, you rewrote it, you scripted it, but you're not reading slides. It's not, you're not looking over. You have no you are speaking and sharing an idea. So the preparation of memorizing and trying to make it not look like you're reciting what you memorized, in all of that context of the lights and the, no dress rehearsal, it was just go. And it was a start and stop. No, oops, let me start over. It was go. Created a real, multiple set of emotions from, I got this, I'm so ready, to, what did I get myself into? 2 seconds before you go up there. But it was really an experience that changed everything for me, because I was coached by some really loving and smart and giving people to say, Bruce, this could reach millions of people. So think of that, but don't think of that. Be as authentic as you can. Tell your story, because you're really trying to share an idea. The process to get there started with a invitation to submit a 3-minute video of, what do you want to talk about? What's your idea? Then an invitation to go do a 5-minute in-person audition. And then you waited. And then I was fortunate to get the letter that said you'd been selected. Then the process that I talked about, coaching and practicing and rehearsing and scripting, and then going on, all followed. There were 17 talks that day, Hamilton, and my number was 15. So I also made another decision. I could have stayed in the hotel room in Dallas, and then 20 minutes before my time gone down there.
Yeah.
I decided to watch all 15 talks because it just was, I wanted a sense of what everything was like. The challenge with that, honestly, was probably 5 times during those 15 other talks, I completely forgot my talk because I was so captured by the other presenters, which gave me a lot of energy around that this was something so much bigger than me. And it's turned out to be, something that's been very rewarding. A lot of folks are looking at it. A lot of folks are commenting, and just, again, it's just sort of getting the word out of the power of our words and our mindset and how that can help us through any situation.
I love that. I love that. Something that we talked about briefly before we started this live broadcast was rolling with the punches and this new environment that we find ourselves in. I mean, we're both sitting in the comforts of our own home. I'm in my childhood bedroom right now, and didn't expect this to be the way that you and I had this podcast, but it didn't keep us from doing it. And we've got a whole new generation of people my age that have never been through anything even remotely like this, whether it be a recession, whether it be 9/11. I mean, this is our first go round. But then in the same respect, no one's ever been through anything like this. So there's not a wrong or a right way to do something like this. It's just, how do you do it, right? And it's how does Bruce Pulver make do with what he's given? And it seems like you've done a very good job with what you were given. Give us a little bit of insight into kind of the attitude and rolling with the punches aspect of what we were talking about.
Yeah. So, we're doing a lot of thinking about this and talking to folks like you. And, these opportunities are just amazing because we are going through the simplest word I can think of is change. And yes, it's huge, right? And we, in this scenario, in this situation, we have choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have choices of how to deal with change. And I will say for me, it's been very much incremental over the last, since the book, right? Since the job change, et cetera. I've sort of taken on the thought of change as something that not just is that I have to deal with, but almost toughening my mind to say it's something
Mm-hmm.
I get to deal with.
Yep.
Because with change, there's choice, and with change, there's opportunity. Now, to see it right now and to see it with the things that are in front of us about, potentially, we're not working, or potentially we've been furloughed, or our hours have been cut back, or, I'm now at home and I've got the kids, or my husband and I are home and we're working together, and we didn't have that setting before.
Mm-hmm.
We now have a lot of things that we can, embrace and say, okay, let's make some choices around the change we have to deal with right now. So it might be something like, make sure you establish a morning routine and you commit to it every single day, even if the company has said, we don't need you right now, go home.
Yeah.
Get up, just a routine. We talk about that if you want to. Awareness around those that you're closer to now that are family and not coworkers. Like, someone gave me some great advice when Emily had moved home, and our other daughter Peyton, we're home. We now have the 4 kids back at home, is to just ask them on a routinely basis what they need.
Yeah.
And it's not a new toy. It's not a new piece of technology. It's, what do you need from me? And I tell you, some of the responses have been, hey, Dad, will you do my workout with me today? Well, okay, I'll try. And that's from my youngest daughter. My oldest daughter would be, same sort of thing. Or can we go for a walk, or can we just sit on the deck for 20 minutes? And to answer yes to that versus, hey, get out of my way, I got to get this thing done. Just being aware that everybody's going through the difficulty. Yeah. So just a lot of different things to be aware of. The routine, your awareness. Also, this is a perfect opportunity to learn something new, right? And whether it's figuring out how to run Zoom or Skype or whatever, whether it's to ask yourself, what new value can I bring to my company? They may not need you to do what you had done in your previous position, but there may be something they need to get done that they've been waiting to do when maybe the customer volumes have dropped. And you just dive in, say, I got this, I'm in. Looking for ways to adapt yourself. Because what I truly believe right now is that there will be a harvest. We will have a harvest at the end of, not the end, to a new situation. Now's the time to plant your own seeds.
I love that. I love that. And I agree with you. We will get out of this. We don't know when, but we will get out of it. And now is the opportunity that we have to do something that our future version of us, non-quarantine, will thank us for doing during our quarantine, right? Whether it's a new skill, whether it's writing a book, whether it's, something as small as learning how to video chat, because I don't think any of this stuff's going away anytime soon, especially if we have something else like this, God forbid, where we have to come back. It hasn't decreased a lot of people's productivity, which is a blessing, because had this happened 5 or 10 years ago, it wouldn't look anything like it looked now. So we have a lot to be thankful for. And to your point with the words, keeping that positive attitude is absolutely paramount. What's a piece of advice that you would give viewers or listeners or me who are early on in our careers, right? And we're experiencing this, and we have decades to look forward to in business or in chasing after a dream or a passion that we have, like you are, that now that you wish you would have known when you were our age?
Oh, wow. Well, a couple things just immediately come to mind, and this is sort of stream of consciousness. So number one, I would say, do not diminish your goals. Do not dial them back and say, oh, well, I was going to, but now all this stuff happened. there's no way I can.
That's
I would
good.
say stay completely focused on those goals. What is likely going to change is how you get there. But keep your goals in focus, keep them in mind, and keep them as stretching as possible. Because I believe if we take this kind of attitude, which would be my second piece of advice, because I'm trying to do this for myself. Okay, this is self-talk as much as it is talk
Of
between you
course.
and I.
Of course.
Is to realize that we can grow through anything that we go through, and if we have that mindset. So, let's take it back to Emily in soccer. If she can go through that first year as a freshman and find out new ways to grow, or if I can go through a 3-week to 6-week to who knows how long it's going to be a home working setting, or before the company calls me back, if I can grow through that situation, I will be better off on the other side. Can I tell you what that'll be? No. Will you know what that's going to be? No. But if you stay what I call committed to the commitments that you make, incrementally doing something towards that goal every single day, and block out as much of the noise and the things that you can't control, you'll be in a better situation to launch yourself and accelerate. When we get back on the on-ramp, you'll be back on the highway sooner.
That's awesome. I love that. Stopping still has never helped me join the traffic on the interstate. You got to keep going. My parents, when you're learning how to drive, do not ever slow down on the on-ramp. Don't ever slow down on the on-ramp. You're not on the interstate yet, but if you slow down, you're putting not only the people on the interstate in danger, you're putting the people behind you in danger, and you're putting yourself in danger. You got to hit the accelerator.
Absolutely. And you may put it in a different gear. So I mean, this is maybe a little cerebral here, but think about that. This is an opportunity. You may not have to go as fast to get farther. So sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. And that's not my phrase. That's a real dear friend of mine who's really talking about, if you can tap the brakes a little bit, it gives you an opportunity to think through, as opposed to just assuming the same things we're doing all the time. So taking a moment each day, whenever, first part of the morning, towards the end of your day, whatever works for you, to kind of reflect and sort of write down, how'd the day go, and write down the wins in one side and the setbacks in another, and just take that time. Why? Because we're not running from concourse A to concourse E to try to catch a connection right now.
Yep.
We're not in traffic for 2 hours to get to our job. Yep. We have that kind of opportunity.
I love
keep going. Yeah.
I love that. One final thing before we close out, because we're already at our time, which is amazing because it feels like we've been talking for 2 minutes. When you said growing through what you go through, I think it was a Ravi Zacharias quote. He said, God usually, when you're going through a certain event or a crisis, most people ask God to deliver them from it or deliver them to the destination, but we rarely ever ask God to deliver us through it. He's trying to deliver us through the situation, not from a situation or to another situation, but through the one that we're going through. And that's right on with what you're talking about. It's don't just go through something, grow through something. And that's super powerful. I didn't want to just breeze right over that. That's the line of the century. So I love that. I love that.
Well, a friend of mine, Brian Hess, who does a morning show called The Morning Perspective at 7:30 every morning. Shout out to Brian.
Wow.
Says life doesn't happen to you; it happens for you. And if we can establish that mindset, anything that comes at us, we can adapt an attitude of, okay, how do I use what's going on to make me stronger and make me wiser and make me more astute, more aware.
I love that. I love that. And I know people are going to want to continue the conversation with you. How can they reach out to you? How can they get a copy of your book? How can they follow your social media accounts? You let us know what the next step for folks that are interested.
Perfect. I'll mention them here, and then maybe we can drop them in comments for
wonderful.
The folks can pick up. So my book is Above the Chatter, Our Words Matter, and that's my website. So real simple, even though it's a long word, Above the Chatter, OurWordsMatter.com. and you can buy the book there. Anyone that buys the book or buys books for their company or however they feel like they want to do it. I personally sign the books when they're purchased off my website. I just communicate and get the names, and I just write them and send them out that way in routine shipment. That's number one. Above the chatter, Bruce Pulver is my Facebook page where I post most of my new writings, and this replay I'll put out there as well. And my email address, if someone wants to reach out to me directly by email, is D like David, BDPulver, PULVER @yahoo.com. So reach out anyway there. I'm out on LinkedIn, Bruce Pulver. I'm posting every day something that I hopefully is inspiring. So yeah, reach out. I'd love to hear from everyone and help any way I can.
Awesome. And thank you for your time this morning. Thank you for your posts and your writing and for sharing your gift with us. If I can ever do anything for you, I'm at your disposal. So I'm very thankful to be your friend, Bruce.
Hamilton, that goes both ways. Thank you for having me. Stay strong, everybody. We'll get through this together. And stay strong, stand tall, remain optimistic. Now go for it.
Awesome. I love it. For everybody watching or listening in, thank you so much for joining Bruce Pulver and me in the jungle this morning. Until next time, we love seeing your smiling faces in the morning. Thanks again, Bruce, and we'll catch everybody next time on the jungle. Have a good day.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too.